Yeah. So last time what we did was we did go through the basic terminologies and so on and so forth, right? We discussed about whatever I just briefed you, terminologies used, techniques used, why daylight is required, and metrics for daylight assessment and so on. Today we will briefly discuss about what are the parameters that influences daylight. Okay, so physical parameters that influences availability of daylight in building, and how do we address this issue, and how do we understand the context when we discuss about the daylight. Okay, so probably we'll discuss in 2-3 parts. Yeah, terminologies. Daylighting is any method by which natural light is brought into the building to replace supplement artificial lighting. We have seen this. Okay, and a daylight system is a device located near or in the building envelopes whose primary function is to redirect a significant part of incoming natural light flux to improve the daylight interior lighting conditions. Yeah, so when you say daylighting system, don't think of any new technology. It is as simple as window as well. Okay, it is kind of a system to bring in daylight. Yeah, this is one of the things that we all should keep in mind. Okay, daylight factor. In today's exercise also we will be using this daylight factor. A daylight factor is a measure of natural daylight in an interior space, representing the amount of light at a given point in a space relative to simultaneous amount of daylight availability outside. For example, we have this built structure. We want to know what is the lux level here. Okay, in this closed room environment. Okay, which is daylight is actually a factor. Daylight is actually the amount of daylight that is available inside the room versus the amount of light that is available in the exterior environment conditions. Okay, and multiplied by percentage. It is normally given in percentage. So it is actually a factor of amount of light that is available inside the environment, inside the closed environment, to the amount of light that is available in the outdoor conditions. This outdoor condition is actually defined in NBC and in fact in other manuals depending on the country in which you want to measure daylight. Okay, so for example, let us say for hot and dry climate, there is a range actually. For example, for hot and dry climate, they say that outdoor average lux level is 8,000 to 10,000 lux. We will see this in detail later on, but you remember that the outdoor environment, outdoor conditions in warm and humid climate is something around 8,000 to 10,000. Depending on the composite, depending on the climatic conditions, the outdoor range will vary. For composite, it is different. For cold regions, this is different, and so on. Yeah, and yeah. The primary thing that we will be discussing today is the parameters that influences daylight performance in building. I have listed some of the parameters that influences the daylight aspect. First is climate. Okay, so this brings you to one of the fundamental question on what is climate. Can somebody define climate? What is climate?
So climate is the weather condition.
Climate is a?
Climate is just the weather conditions.
Sorry, say it again. I'm not able to hear. Just 1 second. So of the parameters that influences climate, of the parameters that influences daylight is climate. Okay, so climate is one of the most fundamental aspect that influences availability of daylight in throughout the world. Okay, so the prevailing climatic conditions of a building site defines the overall preconditions for daylighting design in terms of sunlight availability, visual comfort, thermal comfort, and energy performance. Okay, so for example, in most of the Indian conditions, I think I told you in last discussions as well, we have plenty of daylight availability in throughout the country. Okay, so I have some maps as well. I'll show you how much daylight is available on yearly basis and so on and so forth. Okay, so that is one thing. So based on the location, based on the context, the availability of daylight inside the building will vary, and we have to be aware of it. Okay, one thing. And also there is a change in sky conditions. This also I told you, I think, briefly. There are we discussed about 3 components of daylight. Okay, one is direct, one is diffused light, okay, and one is reflected light. Okay, so and I told you this is how total daylight is defined. Okay, but in the technical term, it is actually classified as overcast sky conditions, clear sky conditions, and partly cloudy sky conditions. Okay, and based on this, each building is assessed. Overcast, we know that it is fully covered and we don't see sun anyway. Okay, but it's all fully clouded. Okay, and I told you last time that if we achieve desired daylighting conditions under overcast, okay, situation or overcast phenomena, then we will be able to achieve desired daylighting in other conditions as well, because it is either clear sky condition or partly cloudy conditions. So these 2 things you should keep in mind when we talk about climate and its influence in availability of daylight. Yeah, these are some of the things that is I've taken for India, where availability of sunshine is recorded for throughout the country. For example, let us say Rajasthan, Gujarat, and west part of Madhya Pradesh and north part of Maharashtra receive more than 3,000 to 3,200 hours of bright sunshine throughout the year. Okay, so here I would like to ask you one more question. What is this number signifying? Any guess?
Hours in a year?
Yes, hours in a year. Okay, so 365 into 24 hours. Okay, so we will be using this. Yes, you want to say something? Yeah, so we will be using this number quite often. Okay, so you remember this 8760. So that means this is the total number of hours throughout the year. Okay, and we talk about how many number of sunshine hours that we have per annum. Okay, in terms of hours we will be speaking in some cases. Okay, so you remember, and in fact when we do simulations, we use this specifically. We say that okay, we have done 8760 hours of simulation. That means throughout the year the data is simulated for generating results. So that number, you keep this in mind. Okay, so for example, in these portions, okay, in this part of the country, we almost receive about 3000 to 3200 hours of sunshine. Okay, so for example, let us assume, yeah, you were saying something.
No, sir.
Okay, so little more than, for example, let us say if you divide this by 2, okay, let's say 8000, roughly 8000, 4400 hours we have. Of that, 3000 to 3200 hours we have sunshine, okay, throughout the year. Only 1000 hours we need to we need to achieve daylight conditions through some other means, or we have to see how do we enhance daylight conditions. So for example, let's say if we can I said half of the time is night, okay, let us night time, and half of the time, out of the half of the time, we can actually achieve daylight in 3/4 of the time. Okay, so it's more than 3000 hours we have sunshine. Okay, well, it's only about 1 hour, 1000 hours or 1400 hours where we have to achieve daylight in other conditions. Okay, so on an average, okay, so 2600 to 2800 hours of bright sunshines are available in rest part of the country. Here we get little extra, and in some part we get slightly lesser, except Kerala and Northeast, where the daylight is slightly lesser than what we have in rest of the countries. Okay.
When you say bright sunshine, what do you mean exactly? Is the lux level of sun?
No, it's not. We don't define the lux level. We say that for example, let us say if you have to achieve daylighting conditions in indoor environment, there is a set standard given. For example, I told you for hot and dry climate or warm and humid climate, the lux level required is 8000 to 10000 in the outdoor environment. Okay, so this is achievable in almost 3000 hours throughout the year. Okay, so bright sunshine means we have availability with this minimum required number will be achievable 8000 to 10000 lux level in the outdoor conditions are available in almost 3000 to 3200 hours. Yeah.
So we can also define that bright sunshine will also represent the clear sky conditions.
Yes and no also, because here we are talking in terms of availability of minimum required 8000 lux levels. Even in partly cloud covered conditions, okay, even in the overcast sky conditions as well, we will be able to achieve in some case in most part of the country minimum of 8000 lux in the outdoor environment. Okay, yeah, literally yes, it is like direct sunshine that we are talking about. With respect to daylight, I am referring it here to achieve that minimum 8000 to 10000 lux level. Do we have enough sunshine or not? So 3/4 of the time, 3/4 of the daytime throughout the country, we have enough daylight to achieve to our desired daylighting conditions in indoor environment. Okay, so these are actually, I hope you are aware of isotopes. These are lines. Yes.
Yes.
I think you have to mute, I guess, because I'm getting echo. Okay, so only if you want to ask questions, you can turn on the mic. Till such time you can keep it mute. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
I think, sir, 8 hours of working is In this way, this daylight is calculated for the 8 hour of work.
Yeah.
8 to 9 hour of working. It's calculated 2000 and
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes, yes. That's what I'm saying. Let us say most of the office hours, for example, even we work for 9 to 5. Okay. So many of the officers work for 9 to 10 or 8 to 5 um, timing. Okay. So there are some exceptional conditions where IT buildings, IT sector, they work almost 24/7. Okay. But if we sit and classify the type of work, almost more than 60, or in fact I would say 80% of the offices, they work only during daytime. Okay, industries and so on. So if we are able to achieve something, if we are able to do something during this time, okay, to make less use of artificial light, then we are making huge difference in terms of energy saving. Last time also I told you, 1 unit, even if we make efforts to save 1 unit of energy, okay, there was one statement, right? We are actually contributing to saving of 3 times, 3 times the environmental component of the energy. Okay, so it takes 3 components of environment to produce 1 energy. Okay, so if we can able to save even 1, that's a big contribution from our side. Yeah. Okay. These are not produced by myself. These maps are available in IMD websites, Indian Meteorological Department, where we can study about. In fact, these are actually part and parcel of National Building Code. So that means I'm time and again bringing this topic. So we have to go through this document very carefully. Okay. So far in architecture bachelors, what we do is we only look for number of toilets required, number of area that is needed. We don't use the National Building Code beyond that. Okay. Actually, there are so many things in National Building Code. If we thoroughly understand that, we will have huge variety of things, variety of very crucial things that is readily available in the in the manual. Okay, so, and that was about daylight. And when we talk about the when we talk about the solar radiations and how we can generate energy, okay, through solar, for example, more than 2000 kilowatts per meter square per area are received over Rajasthan and Gujarat, where actually we know that it is a desert kind of climate. So plenty of direct solar radiations we can observe here. Okay, whereas in other states, okay, northeast states, we almost 1700 kilowatt per meter square of solar energy can be observed. In all other parts, you can see this are 2000 line. This is 1800 2000 line again. So almost between 1800 to 2000 we can see throughout this country, 1900 kilowatts per meter square, 2000 kilowatts per meter square, 2100 kilowatts per meter square, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that means the country has huge potential for solar energy conversion. Okay, so we can make use of this as well. In fact, we are doing it. In fact, the government of India is also making its best effort in since very long time to promote the use of solar panels in the buildings. And in fact, now it is kind of a mandatory in most of the institutional buildings to depend 25% up to 25% of their energy on their own sources. Okay, so which means solar. So how do we do that? Is all crucial, and it is all readily available in the sense we have potentials, but we need technologies to convert this into opportunity for growth. Distribution of annual diffuse solar condition. This is also again this is during bright sunshine, and this is during, let's say, overcast conditions. Okay, even then we have potentials for light, and as well as the use of solar panels in different conditions. At least we are getting 800 kilowatts per meter square of energy in different parts of the country. Okay, so, and I have put some more graphs. This is just to say the minimum temperature and maximum temperature that what we can observe in the different part of the country. Okay, so these are taken from actually IMD and National Building Code references. Okay, so that means in fact when we discuss about different climatic zones, we will also come to this, how for example, if this region is classified as warm and humid, what are the preconditions for warm and humid? Okay, and if it is considered as dry, what are the preconditions for it? If it is classified as composite and cold and so on and so forth, so we will see how what are the conditions in which these lands are classified as composite, warm and humid, or hot and dry, and cold climates. Okay, so temperature and precipitation is one of the most crucial parameter that is used to define climatic zones. Okay, so always remember the climate classification is based on the temperature and the precipitation, the rainfall that we receive over the lands. Okay, so keep this in mind. Yeah, and in fact I was taking some simulating one case for Vijayawada. Since we are located in Vijayawada, I thought we will be able to relate this. So this, for example, let's say this is the timing. Okay, 8760 hours, and yeah, I think I have forgot to put the place. This is Vijayawada. Okay, so this is, I think, some part of Europe. I think, if I'm not wrong, I think I will not. I will check and let you know. I think I have given Paris or London, I guess, is one of the cities. Okay, so if you see this amount of light, amount of solar radiation that we receive, direct and the indirect or the diffused, we have plenty of opportunity throughout the year. Okay, so in fact these are very solid lines, right? Minimum of this 1600 of energy is available throughout the year. Okay, so even in the diffuse conditions, we have 800 odd numbers of energy available throughout the year. Okay, though we have peaks. Okay, I'm telling you in an average. So we have to potentially use it. Okay, we have to potentially, this is only for Vijayawada, but if we do this for Chennai, Bangalore, or any part of the country, the kind of chart that you will get will be more or less like this. Okay, whereas if you see the European countries, they have very different climatic conditions. Okay, so they don't get sun in. You can see the difference. Okay, you can see how dense this is and how sparse this is. Okay, so and also look at the numbers. Okay, also look at the number of the radiation numbers that we receive and the radiation numbers they receive. Okay, so there's a huge potential for us being here to make use of this energy, these ideas into the building. Okay, rather than simply taking the ideas from the Europe and then try to mimic here. Okay, so this is one thing that we should keep in mind. So we were all discussing all this from the climate perspective. Okay, so daylight is greatly influenced by the climatic conditions of the region. Okay, that is one thing. The second parameter that influences daylight is the latitude. The latitude of the building site determines the solar altitude for a given time of day and year. The summer and winter solar altitude property for a specific locations are important design input for control of direct solar radiations. Latitude will also determine the length and the availability of solar radiations. So, for example, if I take this the same example, if you go to Europe, okay, for example, I was in France, so they get sunshine even during summers. They get sunshine even till 10 in the night. Okay, sun sets at 10:30 or 10 o'clock in the night. Okay, but the radiations, we need higher technology to convert that into solar radiations. Okay, so that's why the kind of intensity that we have has got higher potential for converting this into the energy. Okay, one thing. Second thing is based on the same. Okay, if you in the winters, okay, during the winters the sun sets at even at 5. So there is no sunlight after 5. This kind of variation is also there, all because of the altitude. We all know that. I think I have not. Okay, I don't think I have discussed. So if you divide this, let us assume this is the Earth, the globe. Okay, and if we see only in tropical climate, we will have this direct solar radiations hitting almost in perpendicular manner. Okay, and as we go further up on the latitude, okay, so the angle of inclination decreases. Okay, we know this because of the curvature of the Earth's surface, the angle in which this solar radiation hits is different. That's why the intensity is less as we go up. Okay, and as we go up further north, there's almost nothing. The negligible solar radiation reaches the Earth's surface. That's why these regions are very cold. Okay, so maybe when we discuss about the Köppen's climate classification, we will see in detail, little more detail on how this works. Okay, so latitude is the second parameter that will also have an impact on the amount of daylight that we will receive over a period of time. Okay, those are basically, you can say, environmental parameters. The third parameter and the very important parameter is the obstructions from the site. Okay, the obstructions and reflections that takes place in the site. Okay, and when we talk about buildings, okay, this is not in isolation, right? Okay, it's always in context. Okay, that's why I always emphasize we should understand context. Okay, so if you may have designed this building very perfectly, okay, in simulation you may have achieved, okay, desired daylight conditions here, okay, and if you have forgotten to take the context into picture, okay, these results are meaningless. Okay, why? Because you have buildings, okay, adjacent buildings, you have trees, okay, you have tall towers somewhere here, and that will also have an impact if it is closely placed. Okay, so obstructions is also another parameter which is actually not discussed much. Okay, but that is one of the important parameter that we should keep in mind when we talk about daylight. Okay, and the other one is reflections. I told you out of if you divide the entire daylight component, we said one is direct and one is indirect and other one is reflective light. Okay, so this is also important parameter. How do we treat the surfaces? Okay, how do we treat the adjacent walls if we look at this? Okay, so the kind of building that is there adjacent to my site also have an impact on the amount of light that I may get, okay, inside the room. Okay, so this is also one of the important parameter that we should keep in mind. Okay, so what I have written: external reflections and obstructions from surrounding elements on the building site, okay, building vegetation, ground surfaces, etc., will influence amount of daylight reaching the interior building. Note: roof, window and skylight are generally less affected by obstructions, whereas the facade window is normally affected by the outdoor conditions. Okay, so these are just some example. The following above figures shows the effects of obstruction on daylight availability in simple room with vertical facade window, and the effect of adding flat roof window to deliver daylight deeper into the buildings. I think daylight factor, okay, is what is defined here. In this is case 1, case 2 and case 3. Okay, so here you can see the openings, okay, and you can see how much to what extent daylight it reaches, the daylight reaches inside the in the building. Okay, if you see here, they have added additional roof window. Okay, you can see it in the rendering. So yeah, this is just to give an example how simulation results may look. Okay, and if we increase the room length of the window, how much it what can be done, and how, and so on and so forth. And in fact, there are so many tools to render like this. One of the tool that is used is VLEX. I think the result is from VLEX. Okay, the result that is shown here is all from VLEX. I will also be using this tool today. I will introduce you today. You can explore it. Yeah. Yeah, and there are other things that we should keep in mind. For example, roof window, clerestory window, and regular window have different performance. Okay, so normally windows placed on the roof generate, we all know that, we don't have to explain it to you, have high potential for daylight. Okay, vertical window or will bring in more light because of the elongated surfaces. Okay, so if we have even if this building has obstructions, but because of the length, the obstructions will be for some part, but it will reach out to the daylight will reach out to the indoor conditions. So the results show that the obstructions can greatly affect the amount of daylight that will reach building interior, and how adding an unobstructed window on roof can bring in more light. This is just to give an example how different window system will have an impact on daylight environment. Okay, so we have seen three things. First one is climate. Okay, Then we talked about latitude, okay, and we also talked about obstructions. And the third and the fourth thing is building geometry, okay. So building geometry, in last class also we discussed, and in fact in the passive design strategy also I told, this is one of the most crucial parameter in all aspect, okay. And if you ask me personally, what is the role of architect in sustainability or energy efficiency point of view, is in the design, in the design of buildings, okay. So the more consciously if you design, okay, the better it is, okay. If you have a good understanding of climate, how different geometry will perform in different climatic condition, then we will be in a position to design the buildings properly, okay. Geometry of a building influences its capacity to deliver adequate level of daylight. Not only daylight, I talked about the same thing last time from energy perspective, okay. So forms are very, very crucial. I also talked about aspect ratio, okay, if you remember, and we also talked about the courtyard, okay, and how the design of layout will increase or decrease the energy consumption and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think no matter how much glass there is in the front, it will be only possible to achieve adequate daylight distribution in a few meters. Yeah, okay, that's a different thing. Yeah, see, even if we have designed it properly, okay, there is a restriction, right? We can only bring in light up to certain levels, okay. So from our idea is to what extent we can bring it, and from there maybe artificial light design can come into picture. Our idea is to bring in as much as daylight as possible. This doesn't mean that we work in zero artificial lighting conditions. No, we are not saying that. How do we bring it to zero is what we are trying to understand, okay, by having daylight into the buildings. I think maybe we will not do this. Some calculation is there. We will come back to it later on and see how it can be done. This is just an example. Maybe when we do this modeling, we can try this. A simple solution for a deep room of 8 meters by 4 meters by 3 meter height, okay. Visual transmittance of 78%. That means the 78% of the light is let in, okay, and reflectance value is given, floors, walls and roof, okay. So in first scenario, okay, situation with 10% glazing, okay, this is 10% of the floor area, okay. If the opening size is 10% of the floor area, okay, what happens? So 10% glazing to floor area ratio will only achieve 2% of daylight a few meters from the facade, and leave it black, leave the back of the room with very less light. Even though the average daylight factor in the room is equal to 1.9%, only a small work plane area will achieve 2% of the land. So 2% of the desired levels. So there are 2-3 things that we should keep in mind, and you should remember when we talk about this. First thing is, what is the daylight level that we are expecting, okay. So if it is 2, or if it is 5, or if it is 6, we should that is the first condition that we should know. Where do we get it? We should go back again to National Building Codes or some codes, okay. Even for all the green rating systems, they have a different benchmark, okay. So if daylight factor is one of the tool that it's all recommended in most part of the guidelines. So this number is given, okay. What should be the ideal daylight factor in this room. Okay, so if we keep 10% of the window in the room, okay, how to, till what extent, so this blue line is where you can get 1.25 daylight factor. Okay, so whereas our minimum standard, let us assume, is 2. Okay, so that can be achieved only till this depth. Okay, so maybe 1/3 of the room can be achieved with 2% daylight factor with 10% opening. Okay, so same thing in second condition, 30% glazing is added. Okay, 30% of the floor area ratio is taken as a facade window. Okay, so 30% glazing to floor area ratio will achieve daylight factor of 2%, approximately 4.5 meters from the facade. So almost half of the not even half. I think it is only half. 2.5. So if our benchmark is 2 or 2.2, more than 2 daylight factor, 2% of daylight factor, then almost 50% of the room is achieving this required number of required percentage of daylight in this part of the room. Okay, so daylight factor average is equal to 51%, but it is highly non-uniform and not well distributed over the entire room. And this is what we discussed last time, and some of you were also pointing it out. Okay, this is okay. This is a very controlled environment where we have light, but at the same time probably there will be glare. Okay, there will be too much of light here, but it's okay. But if you see here, almost one part of the 1/4 of the room has this issue of glare, may have this issue of glare. Okay, so here there's no shading element is discussed. Okay, so depicted, that's why this kind of issues are arising. So even if you keep the entire facade open on one side and you expect the daylight will achieve, it will bring in other issues. One, we talked about heat, the other is glare. Okay, so both has to be addressed. We will not talk about heat now. From daylight perspective, we will have issue of glare, and that will cause discomfort to us in working conditions. Okay, so in the third case, what they have done is in situation with 20% glazing to floor area. Okay, so from 10 to it has been increased to 20. Okay, and 11% of the total glazing area, 10% is for windows. Okay, and 9% is for roofing. Okay, so almost 20% of the area is used for lighting condition. So if we do so, almost most part of the room, we are able to see I think the lightest line is this green. Okay, this green. So it is more than 3.75. 3.75% of daylight factor can be achieved by combination of window and roof opening. Okay, but this will have an impact on glare and other things that we should keep in mind. Okay, so the results demonstrate that the use of roof wall means better daylight performance and the luminous environment, not as likely as to cause glare and visual discomfort. Okay, because of the depending on the design of this window system, the glare and other things can be controlled. In fact, for this can also be controlled, but through shading and other means that we should keep in mind. Okay, so four things we have seen. the fifth one is material. So what are the four things? If you divide this, first one is environmental properties or environmental aspect. One is climate and topography. We saw these two. And from building and site perspective, first we saw, what did we see first? About the obstructions, and then about the building geometry. Okay, so obstruction, building geometry. Okay, and then we have material as well. So material is also an important parameter. If you see in the last obstruction part, I also talked about the other half, that is reflections from the context, and not only context but also from the indoor material choices as well. So that is also important, that we should keep this in mind when we talk about materials. Color and reflectance of room surfaces are part of lighting system. Dark surfaces reflect less light, okay, than bright surface, and the result is likely to be unsatisfactory luminous environment in which there is a little indirect or reflected light. So this is also important. Okay, so like we discussed, direct light, indirect light and reflected light all has to be taken care when we design buildings and appropriate use of materials in the course of designing daylight. Okay, so these are some examples where for different position and different opening sizes, okay, how daylight will vary, and how if we change the reflectance, the property of reflective properties of the materials. Okay, for example, let us say floor, wall and ceiling. Okay, these are reflectance. Okay, reflective value of a particular material. So for example, if it is 70% is reflected back, 85% of whatever it gets is reflected back. Same happens for roof or the ceiling. Okay, so the kind of environment that we will get is maybe something like this, where everything is reflected back. Too much brightness or too much glare will take place. Okay, so just by altering the material choices for floor, for wall and roof, you can control the kind of environment that you have. Okay, and we should not be doing something like this as well, where it eventually it's kind of dark, only nothing happens inside the building. Okay, even though you get light, but it is not reflected back to achieve or to the entire context for which the daylight is desired or achieved. Okay, so that's one thing. I have written something here. The bright vertical surface inside the room are generally preferred to the dark ones, but shading devices used to control sunlight should use darker material in order to limit the risk of glare. And other last thing probably is the placement of a window, placement of the openings for daylight. Okay, of which first one we will talk about the orientation. The orientation of windows influences the availability and quality of daylight in the interior conditions. Okay, in northern hemisphere, light coming from north is mainly composed of diffused light. I told you, as we go up, we have very less part of the earth's surface where it receives direct sunlight. So all at an angle, very diffused light they receive, sunlight they receive, and provide the interior with functional and comfortable light entertainment. Light coming from south, east and west orientation will in many cases provide interior light with direct sunlight and the light levels that vary significantly throughout the day as sun pursues. Okay, so we all know this, and the same topic has been brought in again. The use of appropriate placement and appropriate strategy to keep the openings is one of the things that we should keep in mind. Yeah, light coming from south, east and west orientation will in many cases provide the interiors with direct light, and the light levels that vary significantly throughout the day as sun pursues in its course. Yeah, we know that. Okay, during winter what happens, okay, and during the summer what happens, and if we the kind of radiation or the kind of heat or the kind of inclination, angle of inclination that we have, that we get the heat from the sun is different from the winters. Okay, very diffused light. So both has to be understood, and accordingly the placement of window needs to be designed. Orientation and placement of window has to be taken care. When we talk about placement of window, we should also know about how the window is designed. Okay, this is also one of the crucial things that we should. How much sunlight hits the transparent surface? How much is it letting in? How much is it reflected back? Okay, so this is also important, that we have to know the kind of intervention that you should take when we talk about designing of daylight. The amount of daylight entering room is linked to total glazing area of window in that room. Yeah, we know this. Glazing transmittance, the amount of daylight transmitted through window pane is reduced by number of glass layers as it penetrates through. Yeah, although we may have the entire wall as translucent material where you can get in light, but it can be controlled through appropriate use of glass panels. Okay, so that will, there are so many things. Maybe we will also be looking at different materials. Okay, in this regard, there are so many materials, a combination of chemical introduction of chemical components into the composite glass materials. There are so many things. Maybe we will see when we talk about this in little detail on what are the options that we have in hand. Like we were discussing, I want to have all this wall as opening, but there is a issue of heat coming in. So what do I do so that I get light but the heat is reflected back? I get very limited transmittance of heat inside the building, and the rest of it is reflected, and also the heat. Okay, so orientation, okay, the property of glass material is also very, very important. Double glazing lets in approximate 80% of the light, while triple glazing lets in only 70% of the light. Okay, so this is kind of thumb rule that you can understand what happens if you use appropriate materials. Colored or coated glass can reduce the visible transmittance of window pane to value of up to 20% less. It reduces the intensity, light intensity by 20%. Okay, if we are using colored or coated glasses. Okay, so appropriate use of materials is important, and also the most important and the parameter when we talk about window as a system is shading device. Okay, so shading can happen both inside and outside. So these are some examples for inside what we can do, and outside we know that there are different types of sunshades that we can think of when we talk about the design of window. Shading and sun screening is just as important to good daylighting performance inside room conditions. Okay. The most efficient shading solution to prevent direct solar radiation is into the building is the use of external shading element. Yeah, that's what I was trying to highlight here. Okay, I have discussed this along with the orientation and position. Okay, so when we talk about design of window, we should also know where, in which direction it is oriented, what is the size, and where is it placed. How is it placed? This is also crucial when we design the building. This is one example where if you change the location of openings, okay, these are on opposite directions, you can see the amount of daylight that is received from as a result of this. But if you combine, okay, if you combine all four in one, or if you push it to one corner and see how things work, okay, so it varies. Okay, we know this, but we should know if you have one side opening, to what extent you will be able to achieve daylight. Okay, so if you have combination of all this, you will get to know all these things. Yeah. Yeah, I think with this I will stop. There are two things that you should keep in mind. I will share these two link. We will explore these two things after this discussion. Okay, I will stop it for now.